That's why we're here. I made my own path that wasn't on that career aptitude test. Now our next speaker brings both technical expertise and a passion for people to his community work. Matthew Clegg is the Community and User Advocacy Manager at Dassault Systems SOLIDWORKS, where he leads the Champions, Influencer, and Sponsorship programs. With a background that spans engineering, additive manufacturing, fabrication, and design, Matthew also holds dual degrees in music performance and industrial engineering technology. So talk about a winding path to get to where we are today. In this session, Matthew will share his own journey from volunteer to global program leader and how he's tackled imposter syndrome along the way. He'll show how professional development and the right mindset can fuel thriving communities and give leaders the confidence to build networks that last. Please join me in welcoming Matthew Clegg. Welcome, Matthew.
Hello. That's a very generous introduction. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'll also let you know, I already got a message. Someone said on the agenda, there's a 404 error on your agenda. And I was like, oh, Matthew's going to love that.
Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and say that's a feature, not a bug.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
It's great to be with all of you this evening. And real quick, Beth, would you like me to show slides or are you able to do that? I want to kick off.
You can go ahead and do that.
Perfect. I will line that up. So my name is Matthew Clegg, originally from Washington State out in the Great Pacific Northwest. And I'm curious if anyone could put in the chat if they're from that beautiful area. I love it. There's mountains, there's everything to do there. I'm going to pull this up here. It's been a great place to grow up. So, pardon me here.
I've not been to this great area.
You haven't been? Oh, but you should. It's an incredible place. So we're going to skip past my since birth origin story. None of you really need to hear that. But we're going to start in my education, my formal education. And hey, Jessica's from Seattle. Awesome. I'm not alone. Great to see that. You might have noticed in the corner of my office, I have a trombone. And there is a story behind that I'll limit for the sake of time. But I grew up loving music. And I was very fond of the idea of becoming a classical musician someday. That was my dream. Did everything I could in middle and high school and competed nationally, did the same in college, and I would be a musician. And 2008 happened. I'll spare you those details because everyone lived through it. The economy did its thing, and I had to adjust. Had a really good conversation with my trombone professor, Dr. Neurohr, about what do we do because of all these orchestras that are going bankrupt. And what I would call our apprenticeship program in the arts industry was no more. It was really an all or nothing proposition. You had to keep going and get more education and debt, and the odds are even worse getting a job. So I looked back, so, I've been taking stuff apart and playing with Lego since I was a kid. And my buddy, a good friend Alex, is an industrial engineering major. And we sat together in jazz band, and he says, this is the way to go. So I went and checked it out. And sure enough, the building right next door, engineering building, that was my new home. I fit right in. Everything made sense to me. All the machines, all the people that love to design and make mechanical, anything you can imagine. I said, this is what I'm going to do next. This is my plan B. So I finished that degree. I did the right thing, got good grades, and then went back that same fall for a bachelor's in industrial technology. And then we're off to the races again. So where that took me from the arts through 10 years of manufacturing engineering is what has brought me to you today, which is an incredible thing to try and articulate out loud because it's been a wild ride, but I've loved every part of it. Some quick highlights of what set me up to be a community manager. I have wound my way through just about every nook and cranny of manufacturing, all the heavy, dirty stuff out in forests and construction sites and big ditches with pipe couplings. And the common thread here is that creative process that I got as a musician and not foregoing that love for creativity. And it took me several years, and we're going to talk about imposter syndrome, but for many years, I viewed all of that love and passion that I had for the arts as something that I had to put in a box, that manufacturing didn't care about that was something. This is a completely new chapter. I got to start over. And I couldn't have been more wrong. Because as I kept going through this journey, you'll see on the bottom left, one of my first industry jobs was designing that little pipe coupling on the right. And my last industry job, before I got to where I am in SOLIDWORKS, was designing the ship on the right. And I pulled that up in SOLIDWORKS in my CAD system that day, and I kind of stared at this for a minute, both of those monitors, realizing, how did I get here? And this whole question, you realize, you know what, it's been the community that's been behind me this whole way. And just as music had a community in itself, and those of you that are musicians, you know how supportive that world is. It's very small, it's very tight-knit, and we're with each other thick and thin. And it was the folks that spent time outside of work, and we'll talk about the two different specific communities, that helped me not just challenge my own assumptions about, should I really be here at this desk looking at these two monitors, but then eventually as a community leader. And that was a very powerful experience for me to go through all of that and still have the trombone on the wall. So it's been a very surreptitious journey. I've spoken to several high schools now in my college, and I do my best to reassure not just students, but colleagues, all of you that are watching. There's a good chance several of you are between jobs, or you've gotten a new job, or maybe you're new to community management and came from another industry, and that's okay. There are many of us that find a way, and I'll do my best to share my story, and hopefully you get some encouragement and ideas out of that. So the way I made the leap into the community management position, I was busy dinking around with these big ships and all this stuff on my computer, and I got a call from SOLIDWORKS for a community management position, and we're going to explore a little bit of that in a moment. But first, what was I doing behind the scenes that kept my confidence through all these big changes? Change is hard. It can be painful emotionally, for sure. I had a community behind the scenes that I built for myself, and there's two organizations that helped me tremendously through that. Some of you may be familiar with the Society of Manufacturing Engineers, also known as SME. Whenever I was in these new jobs, I knew I had a well to go back to. These were volunteer-led organizations, both in manufacturing and the SOLIDWORKS user group that I had locally. So these are people that are taking time out of their days to come and teach others in a community setting, usually to school. And I got to show up as a newbie and just soak it all up and find mentorship in those communities. And at that moment, that's when I really became interested in community leadership, at least at this point in the volunteer setting. But this environment of growth, of support, of mentorship, sometimes I had jobs that had it and sometimes I didn't, but I knew I could always come to these two communities. What did that grow into? I got some awards from SME that still humble me to this day. And now I'm actually chair-elect to lead the member council of a 13,000 member organization. And that is a tremendous honor that I still pinch myself. But it's only made possible by the people you see in this picture and many others that aren't here. All I had to do was show up and be curious. So this is another thing I filed away. And so it came time. Then I also mix in some hobbies. I'm a car guy. Any of you hot rodders out there, that's for sure. And this is my lovely wife, Jessica, and I in New Zealand. So I mixed a little bit of that in as much as I can to try and break up all the volunteer work and the day job. And I highly recommend all of you do the same. Beth and I have had some awesome conversations about work-life balance. As they say up here in Ohio, it's balance. It's very important. And here's some of the musical commitments I've had over the years through my journey as a professional. How did I get to the job I'm at now as a community manager? When the call came in from a recruiter, I was using our design software, SOLIDWORKS, as a manufacturing engineer, sometimes 10, 12 hours a day. I was deeply aware of what our products could do and the manufacturing. Thanks for the kind words, Daniel. I've had that truck since I was 17, by the way. She's kind of a big deal to me. But not as much as my wife, and I remind her that often. So when I got this call from the recruiter, why did I take it? I was doing work that I truly enjoyed. I was working under a professional engineer as my mentor. I was designing things, I was creating things, but this was an opportunity. And as the movie quote goes, I got an offer I couldn't refuse. But in this moment, when I was on the phone with the recruiter, this represents the peak of my imposter syndrome. I wish you guys could have seen a drone shot of me taking that in the equipment yard at work. This was a big deal. At this point in time in 2020, I had become a member of the SOLIDWORKS Champions program, which we'll talk about here in a moment. And I'm still deeply aware of the community programs of SOLIDWORKS. And I've been a part of these for a decade. It was this constant struggle internally. Am I ready for this? Am I not? And I just went through it. And I had to think back, if we go back to all these slides, all of this stuff that I've grown, and I have the community behind me to help me make this leap, and all these different organizations and industry paths, you name it. And I had to think about that. And honestly, that is what allowed me to say yes to this offer 4 years ago. Almost, it's coming up on 5 soon. But it's channeling previous experiences as a community leader. You know, I have some things listed here about engineering, creative arts, community development. Those were keys. So fast forward to literally today. This was at noon Eastern time. The gentleman you see on screen is our CEO of Dassault Systems SOLIDWORKS. His name is Manish Kumar. And this was a big deal for us as a program. And I manage the SOLIDWORKS Champions program. And a quick note about that, we have 7 million users of our software around the world, in just about any country you could think of. And what the Champions program has done is distilled those users through applications, internal interviews, vetting, into 400 of the most passionate and expert users of our software. We put them in a global community. And we meet weekly. We have the month of August off. And this is where we annually get together with our CEO. We have an hour and we listen to his story. And it's incredible. And there's not nearly enough time in this call to recap everything we learned from him. But he is a leader that has come through the ranks, is a mechanical engineer first through his college education, and product and development second. He learned how to code and became a very fluent coding resource within our company, and developed several key features that I unknowingly had used for decades to pay my own bills. And we had a moment to thank him for his work in the company, but an attitude of servant leadership for sure. And that's something that's been taught to me over years and years of mentorship in the communities I've mentioned before. And it's something I bring to my work every day, of how we can serve our customers. And one of the main core messages he shared, we broke a record today. We doubled our participation just about, with 130 people on the call. And we had a discussion about his origin story and his career. And he was very clear about how opportunities will come by in our lives, but in his opinion, they come by at a constant rate. And if those of us that are working extremely hard, 10, 12 hours a day, he claims you might get 2 of those opportunities in a day, where most people may not even get 1. So there are times to definitely push in community management. And I know we all do. It can be a very grueling industry at times, but the rewards are immense. You know, days like today, we can get 130 people on a call and offer an insider experience to our program members, our customers, that they're still raving about in our private chats. It's the emotional paycheck that gets all of us through the work we do, which a lot of it's behind the scenes. So this today, and the timing is incredible, Beth. The cherry on top for my career journey through all of this, and to have a moment where, it's taken me 4 years, and I finally feel like that I've made it, in the sense where we're having conversations with our CEO and our program members. But I always think back to the confidence that the community has given me as a community leader, and it's a very circular relationship. So the final picture I want to show before we jump into more details, this is what I call our family portrait. Every year we have a traveling user conference. It's about 4,000 people. And this last year we got all of us on main stage. I ordered some custom sweatshirts. This is a notion that Beth and everyone at CMX does extremely well of when you're at an in-person event. You take pictures, you have a good time, you showcase that, and you get someone up here, in this case it's me, to rile everybody up and be silly sometimes. But for the first time, we have our own custom sweatshirts that we got to wear as a community. Walk around 4,000 people with what it's kind of like a master's jacket in golf. I'm not a golf person, but that's really what inspired me. So yeah, Beth, exactly. Definitely got to get the group shot. So this is actually the wallpaper on my screen, and it's great to wake up and see when I start work every day. But these are the people we serve, our customers. And one of the major ways I've overcome notions of imposter syndrome, if I do feel that welling up, it's a reminder to me that I need to get on a call with some of our customers and understand what they're doing and what their challenges are. It's usually a sign that I've had too much distance in between those. Working virtually with this, that can make it tough. I know a lot of us are working virtually in community management settings. But when we have those big conference opportunities to get people in a room, that's where we're investing our money. I've been very animated about how we do that, and that we should do that, investing swag in photography in this case, and kind of being obnoxious about it, that we're together, this is our program, these are our people, and this is what we do. And now this picture's everywhere. So that's the end of my PowerPoint. And we're getting towards the end of this session. I know there's a bit of a delay in the audio, but if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A. And I'm going to scan this really quick. Frank asked, how important do you think it is for a community leader to have a background in the industry before being a community professional? Very. If you have the opportunity to do so, I highly recommend it. I've been very fortunate that my career path has allowed for that. If you're someone to a new role that doesn't have that, I would even recommend, I would insist that you either find the person, the colleague that's running some kind of a user group program, or if you don't, to start one and get FaceTime with your customers. Go on tours. If you're in the service industry, especially if anyone in here is tied to manufacturing, the best way to understand manufacturing is to go on tours and see it, and see the good and the bad of it. Some plants are very advanced with technology and some are not, and both could be your customers. This is a lot of what typical C-suites can struggle with sometimes. Let's see, what other questions do we have?
Matt, I'll jump in so that our Q&A can be more of a conversation and less of a interview.
Sure.
First of all, thank you for sharing, and thank you very much for sharing your story. As soon as I heard that it was kind of like this roundabout way of getting here, I've always said the only unique thing about all of our origin stories is that we all end up here together. And like yours especially, it was like I went from designing ships and playing trombone to like, what?
Yeah. It's a
so
little.
Anyway, thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
And again, very validating. And I see some great, comments in the chat. I'd love to hear my own personal curiosity. Surely you have had a moment since and before today when you had this CEO conversation, like surely you've had a moment where you were like, wait, I am the right person for this. I'd love to hear about that moment if you can think of one.
Oh, absolutely. So at this user conference that we host, 3 days of presentations, 4,000 people. There's a giant main stage, the one that we took our picture on. And my colleague, Dan Wagner, who leads our user group program worldwide, he and I work together every day. We're essentially the Bonnie and Clyde of community here at SolidWorks. So, but the first time we were backstage on main stage, it's a lot of stages, we had to go speak to 4,000 people together. What are we doing? Why do we do it? Who are the important people of our programs, and recognize them? Thank you for all of your volunteerism and dedication, all this stuff. I had a moment where I looked at him, because I've never spoken to 4,000 people before. I mean, go find an engineer that does that for fun. Good luck. and that was it. And I realized there's 3 points I want to leave folks with today. The first one, and this is a great segue, that you deserve to be leading the conversation at the table you have built. And it was that moment. So you know what? And I had to think back to 10 years of experience in all of the conversations and mentorship I had and customer knowledge and all these hats I've worn. I am ready for this. And, you know, Dan and I did a little fist bump and we went out and did it and had fun and just about ran off stage together for the first time. But it was good growth, for sure. And that was 3 years ago. And now this is something my colleague and I genuinely look forward to. We're still nervous, but that's when I really had to own it. No, this is the time to fully step into both shoes. Yeah.
That's good. And I mean, even just that moment of like, you're about to go on stage and you're like, how did I trick all these people into inviting me on stage? But you're here for a reason. And like the people want to hear you. They hired you for a reason. Like they saw something in you, even if you can't see it right now, like they saw something in you. And that's why you're here. So it's good advice to like step back and be nicer to yourself.
Totally. And to savor those moments. Anyone in this call, you know, as a community leader, there will be times you're addressing shareholders or the C-suite or thousands of customers, or maybe all three at once, like in the case of Dan and I. Make sure to savor those moments, as terrifying as they may be. You know, those are big opportunities few people get. I had a colleague tease me that, just remember, you're going to go speak to every customer we have. Anything that comes out of your mouth. But yeah, it's good though. And when you push through those, you'll look back and probably smile, maybe laugh at some things, but it's healthy growth for
That's
sure.
good. I'd love to hear if you have any advice. I mean, I see Frank in the chat who's saying like, do I need all this experience in chats and forums? Like, what's my icebreaker moment? Or like, how do I break into this world? What advice do you have for folks who are in Frank's position?
Totally. And I now realize I'm at a point where I have that 10 years of experience and it makes me kind of privileged in a way. But if I think back to someone who didn't have that yet, you got to put time on your calendar to network. Especially if you're in a new role, a new industry, you got to get to know the industry you serve. And you build brick by brick from the ground up, and it takes years. But every conversation you have with a prospect, with a customer, other industry professionals, it's going to build your confidence. Being involved with organizations like CMX, what we're doing right now. If any Brene Brown fans out there, the whole concepts around shame and vulnerability, you get, this is all of mine right there. It's being recorded. So this is a great opportunity to practice, especially for you, Frank. What is it like outside of your bubble? What have people done to succeed when they're in a new bubble? But it is the community itself that makes these things happen. I think it's one of the beautiful ironies of our work that, as we're doing right now, we're making our own community of professionals to help and mentor each other. But to me, it goes deeper than reading LinkedIn posts. A lot of the stuff you see people do, this is face-to-face conversations with your stakeholders, whomever they may be, for sure.
Well, and you kind of touched on this. I mean, I think my theory is that the reason why imposter syndrome runs rampant in our community or in our industry is because we aren't coming out of university with a degree in community management. And so it is that like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? Why am I here? You know, and it's that like, okay, so that's why imposter syndrome is so real. But what I appreciate about your story is that there is a perspective shift. It's like, this isn't a weakness. This is my strength. Where I've been and where I've come from, and the experiences that I've had, like, this is the kind of stuff that I'm going to harness. And that's what makes me special. And that's what's going to make me so good at this role and managing this specific community.
Yes. And one of those aha moments, and Frank, this for you too, orchestra, jazz band, all this stuff that I put in a box, kind of hinted at this earlier. That's community leadership by another name. And I guarantee many of you that are asking these kinds of questions, if you dig through your past, you will find examples of community leadership by another name. And all of a sudden that makes you an interesting person. I could put that trombone on any wall in this room, but I keep it right there because I talk about it all the time. People ask about it. And I believe it makes me more memorable as a community leader. And Frank, I'm sure you got stuff that's fun. I see a lot of instruments, guitars, all sorts of stuff. Those of us, especially working from home, it's pretty neat. My wife is a sports person. There's community leadership by another name as well. I mean, there's all these different examples, and we've been practicing community leadership a lot longer than we tend to give ourselves credit for. I find that a lot, Beth.
Absolutely. Well, and even the people are sharing. I mean, Carolina, I'm a veterinarian. So it's like,
right. Yeah.
No. She says, I feel like I'm a fraud and things like that. But the truth is, if my work wasn't good enough, I wouldn't be here. Jessica also shared vulnerability. I still talk myself out of applying for roles after 12 years as a CM. So it's easier said than done, isn't it? So, I mean, like, what's like your one last tip that someone could do? A thing they could say to themselves, like, what do they say to themselves in the mirror? Is it the superhero pose? Like, what's your tip for when you start to feel that like mean voice come up that's like, you're not good enough?
I'm gonna go with this. Why not? So my little LinkedIn photo, you guys really, all 235 of you get a real insider view now. When I got up on stage to go speak and I'm all nervous and all this stuff, you know what? You know who's the man? Johnny Cash. That dude knows exactly who he is. And I've been a huge Johnny Cash fan my whole life. So you know what? I'm going to wear an all black with a logo. I got a custom shirt made for all of us. I got a red tie. And look in the mirror with a red tie and a nice shirt and all this stuff. Maybe I do know what I'm talking about. And sometimes it's little stuff like that you got to put on the jersey. Like right now. I have team colors at work. I'm a big fan of that. Maybe it's my blue collar background. You put a uniform on when you go for work, who knows? But I found that's a great way to get myself out on stage. Get the shirt with the nice cufflinks. Get the Superman cufflinks, whatever it takes. Ladies, I'm sure you have your ideas too, but that's really helped me a lot get over that hump.
That's good advice, and it can be just that simple, you know? It's like donning the shield or whatever you want to call it, your power up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, honestly, I like out loud to myself before every event, even like this morning, I was like, you can do this. You're really good at this. That's just what I do. Well, thank you, Matthew. On that note, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your experience and for being vulnerable in front of us. This is a large group, so I really appreciate you taking the time to share your experience with us.
It was an honor to be here, and I would encourage all 235 of you to stay curious and stay connected. That's how our industry survives.
Fantastic. Thanks, Matthew.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone.